It's been a long, strange trip for Robert Pattinson to get his new role as the Caped Crusader.
Delusions!
Before he became the Dark Knight, he starred in a few notable films. This list isn't about those movies. No, we want to focus on the roles you forgot he took or never noticed him in. Trust us, Pattinson's been staying busy. This video is about way more than Edward Cullen and Cedric Diggory. The dude is a chameleon when it comes to acting.
That part is a little dramatic.
Before he even donned on the sparkling makeup and took center frame as Edward Cullen, Robert Pattinson was art, a depressed, unconfident musician in How to Be. The film is a basic indie film from the late 2000s. It's about growing up, dealing with depression, and finding out how to be you in a world that feels unrelenting. How to Be came out the same year Twilight did, so you likely don't remember the film. The British movie was shot right at home for Pattinson and didn't make waves across the other side of the pond. The movie went on a festival run that came up with modest success. Director Oliver Irving even scooped out some awards at smaller US festivals. In fact, Pattinson won a Best Actor award at Strasbourg International Film Festival for this role. Take that, Twilight.
This is the skin of a killer, Bill.
It's not cheating using foreign films, right? Look, if you still remember Little Ashes, you must be a big-time Robert Pattinson fan. The film was released during the same busy 2008 for Pattinson, where he starred in How to Be and Twilight, so it's right there with those two films as well. It's also considered a Spanish and English cinema. The film was dubbed in Spanish and shot in Barcelona, so if you're in the States, it makes sense that you may not remember this one. Pattinson co-stars as Salvador Dali. Yep, you heard that correctly. Robert Pattinson plays Salvador Dali. How did we all lose track of this film? The movie isn't half bad either. The trailer is hilarious to watch today because it feels super dated. However, the actual content is solid. There are abstract moments and a keen focus on Dali's relationship with Federico Garcia Lorca and Luis Buñuel. We hear you in the comments section. How did this film make it on air? Well, how about this? Would you even remember Water for Elephants if we didn't include it on this list? Exactly! Hence the reason it's being showcased here on our list of forgotten roles. You don't think about him in this movie unless you're prompted to. There are a few big reasons for this. Despite the fact Pattinson received top billing and a Teen's Choice Award for his performance, he loses out to his co-stars. This talented actor was not the Caped Crusader quite yet. Many critics saw him as the weak tween vampire character with no personality. Now, we all know this wasn't fair in hindsight, but that was the opinion back then. Pattinson was climbing uphill to prove the casting director right here. He got this role over Channing Tatum and Andrew Garfield. The issue is, Christoph Waltz and Reese Witherspoon outshine him here. It's true, they're seasoned actors with refined talent, and they just make him look forgettable here. Now, that's not Pattinson's fault, and some reviews even mentioned at the time that the actor would eventually find his footing. It just wasn't meant to be for Robert Pattinson quite yet. Colin Farrell was all set to take on the lead role of Eric Packer in David Cronenberg's new film Cosmopolis. Then his role in the Total Recall remake forced him to leave the project. The director, needing a quick replacement, decided to cast Robert Pattinson in the role. It feels like even he forgot he cast him in this movie. For those of you who haven't figured out this Canadian film, let's break it down for you. Essentially, the movie is entirely satire and a distinct critique of the 1% in America. Packer, Pattinson's character, goes on this long, exhaustive journey in his stretch limo to get his hair cut across town during a massive protest. If that sounds long and unending, well, you're spot on. That's the chief criticism for this movie. For his part, Pattinson plays the role well. It's the storytelling that drags here. Even for a satirical work, it plays a bit too experimental and shuffles too many ideas at once. You don't remember Pattinson on purpose this time. He's meant to be like any other gold standard stockbroker and essentially become faceless and emotionless. It's literally the movie's whole purpose and his character's description, so not really Pattinson's fault for playing it well. That's right, not one, but two Cronenberg films made it onto this list. He must have enjoyed Pattinson a lot in Cosmopolis because he cast him again in a supporting role in Map to the Stars. Pattinson plays an aspiring actor named Jerome Fontana who tries to make himself amendable to everyone he meets. Jerome is a limo driver who ends up driving the main protagonist and starting a relationship with her. There's a lot of chemistry between the two actors, even if it's a reluctant romance at first. In this role, role, Pattinson takes a chance to stand out for once. The only issue is, this satire didn't quite approach a mainstream audience, hence the reason you don't remember it. It also hurts his chances of being remembered for this role because the whole thing is about narcissism and personality. Jerome is a stable character that helps illustrate the instability in the other characters. In a film like this, you tend to remember the wild moments and not the guy who makes them stand out. It's undoubtedly one of his first roles that he showed he was ready to break out and become a real indie star. Mia Wasikowska and Robert Pattinson showcased a spark in Map to the Stars that turned into a perfect relationship in Damsel. It's funny because by perfect, we mean utterly hilarious and well-conceived. The two just work well together, and it shows in this comedy western with a brilliant balance of action. The reason you don't remember Damsel is obvious. It didn't get quite big enough.
That's really pretty.
Oh, thank you.
The movie had its moment in the indie scene before fading away like a shooting star. So if you want to see Robert Pattinson stumbling around the Wild West with a miniature horse named Butterscotch, then we have a movie for you.
That's your wedding present! The miniature horse, I named it Butterscotch!
Damsel is brilliant because it showcases the comedic chops of Pattinson. His character, Samuel Alabaster, is so odd and delightful that you may forget that Robert Pattinson is playing this character. We're not even kidding. This is one of those films that you click on to watch and see Robert Pattinson and don't believe it's him for like half the runtime. The Rover is an Australian film that will leave you breathless. Before A24 was A24, this independent production was one of its notable festival success stories. We're not saying the movie made A24 big, but just highlighted their talents for spotting great films. Part of what makes this film great is Pattinson's performance. Say that 5 times fast. His character, Ray, acts more like a plot device than a real tangible character in this story. He's a tool used by the protagonist, Eric, to find his stolen car. Okay, we're making this sound more straightforward than it is. This movie is set in the future after a massive economic collapse. That car is the last valuable thing Eric owns. Ray's brother and some other criminals hijack the vehicle but abandon Pattinson's character. The minute he enters frame, you feel kinda shocked. Pattinson looks older and more worn down in this film. He's not playing a pretty boy or some love interest this time. He's broken and messy. We're not even used to describing him like that. Ray was one of the first roles Robert Pattinson took to show audiences he can elevate a piece with only a simple supporting role. We want to use this entry to talk about blenders.
Will it blend? That is the question.
No, not the one you use to make your smoothies. A blender is an actor that can stand out when they need to or fill a character actor role instead. A perfect example of this is Gary Oldman. You see him in a movie and you might recognize him, or you might not. Even when you do, you often forget he's in it the second time you watch the film. Robert Pattinson is a blender. We realize that it all sounds silly, but The Queen of the Desert is a great example. The epic sprawls across the desert and meanders from moment to moment. It's a long film, but that only helps Pattinson blend. He plays T.E. Lawrence. Yes, that T.E. Lawrence, and complements Nicole Kidman's Gertrude Bell expertly. The movie isn't about him or his character, but he does occasionally stand out. We're not talking in the traditional sense here either. It's Lawrence that stands out, not Pattinson. Yet again, we have an example of a forgotten role that's meant to be forgotten. Admit it, you saw the title Life and instantly thought this was the 2017 sci-fi thriller with Jake Gyllenhaal. We hate to break it to you, but this is not that movie. We're referring to the 2015 independent film focused on the relationship between Life magazine photographer Dennis Stock and actor James Dean way back in 1955. The lead in this film is Dennis Stock, and Pattinson performs the role incredibly well. The occasional critic calls it another stereotypical brooding performance, but we couldn't disagree more. Stock as a character offers more to Pattinson than Edward Cullen ever could. He plays a round, full character with struggles and actual goals. So why then did we forget about this movie?
Yeah, I see it, Jimmy.
Here's the truth. No matter what we say about High Life, we can't do Claire Denis's movie justice. The director has wrapped potent themes in a story that bends and twists so organically. We don't recommend every movie on this list, and this one is certainly only for the more mature viewers watching right now. One of the fascinating aspects is the way Pattinson excels here. Nothing about Monty should make you think Pattinson would be perfect for playing Bruce Wayne, but someone we believe. This role does just that. Here, Pattinson becomes the definition of range. Monty is so many things at once, and you spend the entire film figuring out why he and his daughter are the only people left on this spaceship drifting into space. It's mysterious, and Pattinson plays that tone up. The film never reached a big audience, which is why you probably don't remember hearing about it at all. The other thing is we legit forgot Pattinson was playing the role several times in this film. We mean it in a friendly way. You end up stunned at how far he's come since his first roles. Everything about his time in indie films appears to pay off right here in this movie. Did you learn more about Robert Pattinson than you ever planned on knowing? Let us know your thoughts below and comment to predict how you think he'll do as Bruce Wayne. To keep up with all things Screen Rant, like and subscribe to get more videos like this in your feed.